Welcome to Inside the CS80. In this video, I met with Ryan Hawkins, who's one of the leading synth experts in Los Angeles. I call him the synth doctor because his knowledge is so profound. He has over 200 analog vintage synthesizers. Amongst those, a couple of CS80s. He was kind enough to let me borrow his CS80 for 3 months to ultra deep sample it, which I did all myself. But in that process, Ryan and I went back and forth a lot. He came to the studio, showed me more about it while I researched the history of the machine, recreating all the classic patches, all that stuff. It's a really deep machine. It's a heavy machine as well. It weighs over 220 pounds. And within it is over 2,100 components and I think over 3,400 different wires. So when you see it from the inside, which you're going to do in this video here, it is astonishing how deep it goes, and it speaks to the beauty and the complexity of it. The best way I can describe the CS80 is like, imagine that you were an engineer and you were given unlimited resources to create the greatest synth of all time. That's pretty much what it is in many ways. Like, there was nothing it couldn't do. It had polyphonic aftertouch in 1977. We're barely there today, and so forth. It's just an incredible unit, and I think there's a reason that it's perhaps the most revered polyphonic synthesizer, at least in terms of pricing on the different vintage websites. It goes up to like $100,000. Ryan has been curating a specific CS80 for this project, and I mean, not just for this project, but in general, by selecting components from other CS80s and sometimes from CS60s as well, in building this super unit where all the oscillators are just like of pristine quality. It was also modded with a Unison mode that takes all the voices and put them inside of one. We're going to go deep into that as well. So yeah, this is just a deep dive into the CS80 for all of you guys who love it as much as Ryan and I. All right, so like, try to take me through it, man. What am I looking at?
Okay, well, this rack mainly holds the voice cards. Then it also has some of the preset cards and some of the keyboard electronics. But if you look at just these sections right here, like this is like the top layer of 8 voices, and this is the bottom layer of 8 voices. Then you have your output over here. But if you just look at every card, like just to tune one of these cards, first you set your initial tuning, and then you have to tune every octave down per card. So that's how you really tune the instrument. There's no auto tune, so every voice, which there's 16 on this, you have to tune 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 5 trimmers per voice. So 5 times 16, whatever that is. That's how you have to calibrate it just for the tuning, right? Then
what are all these things, like those tiny things in there, those chip-looking things, or transistors?
Those are resistors.
Resistors.
Yeah, those are just some resistors. And then you have these trimmers. I can't remember which those are for, but you set your envelope timing with those for both envelopes per card. And then there's just some other, filter tunings and also some other things in there. So it just calibrating this thing in general is quite time consuming, especially because the cards are so tight. On a CS60, these cards are laid flat and they have a lot more room. So they're not as compacted. They don't get there's not as much heat traveling through it, which I think was part of the reason why CS80s, a lot of people complain that they could be that they were kind of unstable with their tuning, and it's probably why, because it's so compact in there. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. Like, I look at these wiring looms, and like, even if they just use ribbon connectors instead of these wiring looms, it would be so much less daunting or less intimidating to look in here.
And what's all this? So what's all this stuff up here, like on this side here?
So this is where the presets are. This is the back of the pitch ribbon.
I see. Okay,
yeah. Cool. So, and then these are your memories, your memory patches. And
so those are the 4 memory patches there.
Yeah. So you could see like top layer, bottom layer, top layer, bottom layer. And those go to these buttons up here. It's literally just taking this and multiplying it times 2 over there. Yeah. Let's see. Then there's your power supply down here. Underneath the key bed, you have the key assigner circuit, plus all of your sample and hold to send, and your poly aftertouch circuitry to send the signals to the voices up here. That's where also the MIDI kit is installed.
Underneath there?
Yeah, it's underneath there. And that's pretty much it. If I had this thing completely opened up, I could talk more about what's going on underneath, but...
And then I know it's not chicken wire, but I absolutely love like the way like it has like these breathing holes on the back here.
Oh yes, yeah. They needed it because if you ever put your hand on there after it's been on for a while, it gets kind of hot. But I just think stuff like this is so beautiful. The way, just the amount of care and attention that went into just putting something together like those preset patches.
Is the like all these, like I'm noticing on the cables, like all the ways that they are sort of bound together. Is that your work or is that?
No, that's factory. That's string. So they would tie it together with string, and then that's how they kept the wires.
This is factory.
Yeah.
So, oh my god. So this string, I mean, it looks brand new. It's lasted for 45 some years.
Yep. Yeah, look, it's all down here too. It's pretty much everywhere. Look, even right here. Like, how long did it take them just to do that? Right? I often think about if you told someone, okay, I want you to replicate this instrument down to every single wire today, what it would cost to do this. You know what I mean? It's such a crazy endeavor to think that a company actually went about making this.
And yeah, right. And even considering in this day and age.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I look at this whole thing here, I think about like the movement in the unit. Like all I see is movement here. I see perfect imperfection, and just I mean, it's a marvel of engineering in its own right. And I didn't. So, man, like when you see it from this angle up here,
yeah,
I have no idea what I'm looking at, but it definitely looks diverse.
Yeah, it's
So these are all the voice cards?
Yeah, so not everything in this rack is voice cards, but there's 8 voice cards right around this, where you see these little capacitors up here. Those are 8 voice cards, and you have 8 more right here. And if you look at this back here, it tells you what each card is. There's that script back there.
Oh my gosh. God, man.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, Mike, look at the little bag that it keeps a spare fuse in over here. This little bag right here. See? In case you blow a fuse, there you go.
Do you feel there's anything they didn't think about? Because for me, I mean, it just seems like this is so, I wouldn't say over-engineered, because I appreciate it all, but it is over-engineered.
Yeah, I think it's over-engineered. I think the only thing that I really would have liked to see that wasn't a factory modification was just separate outs per layer. I think that's only the kind of the missed opportunity, because then you could have opened up the sonic field a little bit more. This does have stereo outs, but I think that's mainly for the chorus.
Right.
Which the chorus colors the sound too much for me. It really strangles.
Yeah, I did it. I have it in there in color variations, but I felt the same. It's very what we talked about earlier. Like just give me the damn Juno chorus instead.
Right.
But man,
yeah, just the way these key beds are made. Is one interesting thing about this key bed. You know what a lot of people don't know is this key bed and these keys are exactly the same keys found on like a CP30 or a CP20.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So the key bed on those, I mean, you could get those for a couple $100 usually, like a CP30 or something. People just kind of give those away. But if you have a CS80 with a really bad key bed, just source yourself a CP30 and swap out all the keys and you're good to go.
So this is also okay. So is this how they get their weight because they're so long?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that? What are those white things on the very end there?
These right here?
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it connects to the pad that actually pushes the wires up, because you can see there's these wires back here, I mean, these little leaves back here, one is slightly longer than the other. So when you press a key, it hits one first and it makes the connection, and then the second one makes the connection afterwards. See how the one on the right goes first, and then you hit the second one? That's how it knows velocity. So the amount of time it takes between the first one and the second one is how they decide how hard you hit the key. Because if it's slow,
sweet man.
Yeah, if it's slow, they know that your velocity is, you're not hitting the key really hard. But if it's a very quick time in between those two hitting, that's where the velocity intensity comes from.
God. A marvel of engineering, man. And it's funny when I look at it, because like it looks like the past, but to me it sounds like the future. Mm-hmm. And I guess this is what it requires to build a real electric instrument. Like if you really want it to be as alive as an acoustic instrument, well, you're looking at it.
It's timeless, like just like a violin or a piano or any of those instruments. It's a timeless design, and I think experience playing it.
It is. What a wonderful way to wrap this up.
That pitch ribbon connector up there, when I got it, it was broken because there's this really thin spring that's very malleable spring that sits in it. It's a very specific type of spring too. Like you can't just go down to the hardware store and find the type of spring that's in those. So I went to a thrift shop that had an electone, because there's an electone that actually uses the same exact spring. Pitch bend mechanism. And they had the electone for sale for like $50 or something. So I took in the store, I bought the organ. I took the pitch ribbon, and then I just donated the organ back because I just needed the ribbon. I just needed the ribbon controller, and that's where this one came from. That's where the spring inside that one came from.
Well, there's a lot of organs. I mean that in a human sense. There's a lot of little organs in this unit.
Yep. And even the key assigning. So this is 8 voices, but it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get the last voice. So if you're doing round robin through MIDI, you're probably getting 7 voices, not the 8th.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
So my question was, now that you've spent some time with it, does it make you want one, or do you think you got it out of your system?
I mean, how can you ever get it out of your system?
Yeah.
Like, as we talked about, like, for me, I was like, I thought I had it down. I spent like 3 weeks with it every single day. I was like, okay, I'd finally like sucked it out, came back to it, was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I find it so sensitive. Like, you do a tiny little thing and it's like, oh, it's like different. And every day it sounds a little bit different than the day before. That thing is alive.
It's got a mind of its own for sure.
It does. Yeah. I had a good friend of mine over here, Ben Molfish, and I were talking about it in any, because he used it on Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And he said the thing for him that encapsulated was that it was always alive.
Yep.
Like, yeah. Oh, he said movement was the work.
Yeah, movement. Yeah, like it's very fluid, a lot of movement in it. Yeah, I think that's probably due to the fact that it was built before there were microprocessors, you know?
So I had a long conversation with ChatGPT about CS80.
Yeah.
And I was like, are there any components in here that are remotely like digital? And it's like, there's none.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some CMOS chips, and it has a DAC where it will take some real basic digital signals and convert them to control signals. But for the most part, there's no software in it. There's no EEPROMs. There's no firmware. Everything's proprietary, like the key assigner, the DAC, all the chips that they use in the voices. They're all proprietary Yamaha, which is like, if you think about it at the time, that's like such a huge endeavor to overtake as a company. And it's just like, I don't even know why it seems like such a wild thing to make. And it's like, at the time, using that technology, it's like, this is the best they could do. It's like, I don't know.
It's ironic. It's the best they could do, and it's still the best we could do today.
Yeah.
You were just talking about like modern analogs, and they're beautiful in their own right and very close, but they're not the same.
No.
Like I don't hear like the movement in it, and granted, it's instability as well. I mean, it's a fine line between when it operates in sweetest form and when it's kind of like it needs a little help, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about like, so this came out in probably about 76. They only made a few hundred of them. They only made them for, you know, a couple of years, 3 or 4 years through 1980. And right after this came out, you had like the Prophet 5 and the OBX. And these synthesizers that basically took what this giant ball of wires does and baked it down into something else controlled with a microprocessor. And for some reason, I feel like it was a great achievement because now you have patch memory. This has 4 patch memory, which is done archaically, just like it just repeats the panel 4 times, 4 times, and that's your patch memory.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about that. I actually liked opening up because I feel it's a different way. So yeah, it makes sounds different than you got on the main board, which is like what a gift, like that you would just. But I wonder, like, for all these things, there needs to be a discrete wire going.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So is that why it's so full of wires? Like, because every preset needs its own.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you look underneath the panel, it's basically the same connections that you find on the front panel, just duplicated in this little tiny box. So it's basically just having, it's actually dual layers. So it's like having 3 full panels,
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? But the other wild thing about the CS80 and why it looks so gnarly inside is because it's before they started using ribbon connectors and motherboards, because like the CS70M, which the voices themselves, they use some of the same IG chips, similar architecture in a lot of ways. They went to voice cards that just plug into a motherboard. They went to a microprocessor. They went to software, ribbon connectors, and it cut all these wires and just baked it down. But, I think it's like an economical thing to do, but I think you also lose some of the fluidness that you're talking about. I think when you switch to stuff that's more controlled with digital, you kind of, I don't know, like it's hard to explain. Like I just picture all the Rolands, most of the Oberons beyond like the EVS and the SEM systems, sequentials. They all kind of have a same feeling when you play them. It could be because there's no aftertouch, there's no velocity, but this definitely feels like it's its own thing, and it's really hard to find something that gives you this experience, in my opinion.
So we have something we call UDS, which stands for like ultra deep sampling. It's the idea of like capturing something profoundly deeper than it's done before.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing I noticed with this thing, I did chromatic sampling of all the oscillators, for example, with a multitude of what we call round robin, which is repetition of the same note.
Yeah.
And every time, even when you look at the waveforms, like, oh no, like you're different kind of thing. You're supposed to be the same, but you're coming from a different voice card, I guess. So like it's not the same.
Yeah.
And it made me think about even the more modern ones, like the organicness. One thing is the filter, and I think that's the true soul of the unit. But even the oscillators, like how much they differentiate, it speaks to that. It's every component in it that's like.
Yeah. I mean, even the envelopes, like just calibrating the envelopes. There's so many calibration points in this. Tuning being one of them. It gets really hot in there. There's no auto tune. And there's a lot of voice cards. There's 16 voice cards in it. So every card, every voice card, I think, I don't know, it's got to have at least 15 trimmers or so in there per card. So if you're not on top of the calibration of it, you're going to get a lot of movement.
And we never thought there was 2 because there's 2 CS60s in it, more or less, right?
Yeah, more or less. It's like 2 CS60s plus a bunch of extra electronics for the key bed for the aftertouch, the poly aftertouch, because you have aftertouch on the CS50 and the CS60, but it's mono. You don't have the poly aftertouch, which I think is a really useful thing on the CS80 because you have these dual layers where you have like 2 voices and they're stacked on top of each other. But one of my favorite things to do is with the poly aftertouch is you use one of the layers as almost like an aftertouch effect. So if you just turn one of the layers off, you can bring it in volume-wise per key. So you can get some really nice textures if you're using like a noise, just simple noise that has a huge high pass filter on it or something. So
it's wild for me because like because I've been sampling for so long.
Yeah.
I tend to think of I used to think that acoustic instruments were like a piano is like this old relic that can only do one thing. And then over time, recording more pianos, I'm like, oh, like the piano is actually more advanced than the technology. There's infinite velocities, and hold on to a sustain pedal, and you get a better effect than any digital effect I'd ever heard. And I'm starting to think like of these things. Well, that's actually more futuristic than the technology. It's just more complex and beautiful. I think the same thing about the CS. I had the same vibe with CS80 as I have with acoustic instruments. It's like, oh, you're alive.
Yeah,
and I'm. This is gonna sound weird. I actually had a hard time sampling in the beginning because I was like, I felt the unit was better than me. Like I don't feel like I could do it justice.
It's a tough one to sample because just like, any of the Jupiter 8, you put up your patch and then you run the MIDI notes through it and there's your sample. But with this, it's like trying to capture the essence of all the control, the expression that you have over it is really what makes the CS80 the CS80. And when you're sampling it, I could definitely see that being a challenge. I mean, I tried sampling it and I ran into that problem, But I have just based on what I've heard so far, I think you did it justice. So
a lot of it has to do with like the cool thing is like I can have 8 CS80s in Soundpaint, and each of them have their own voice distribution, which is amazing. And like I made a patch the other day where because this one was retrofitted with the Unison mod.
Yeah, from the factory. I mean, from Yamaha's custom shop. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's wild to take 8 of those in Soundpaint. So you have 8 Unison CS80s playing together. Like that stuff is cool. The level of control, but a lot of it has to do, I think, with how we program it. Like so program it in the same spirit of movement. So it's not just like, okay, here you're triggering a sample. It's like, no, like you should feel like an analog. So we have polyphonic aftertouch as well. So playing a lot with that and just, because there's always 2 synths playing side by side, I feel in the spirit of programming, it's a lot to do with that as well. And then when I looked at all the software emulations, a lot of them are using like a lot of effects out of like big reverbs and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I'm going to do that as well, but it's really beautiful in its core state without too much like saturation.
Oh yeah, I agree. And if you throw reverb at it, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Especially on the patches, because the patches to me are somewhat lacking. But it kind of makes sense. Like if you think about when this thing came out, there's so much electronic music that hasn't shown up yet, before all the new wave and all the 80s electronic stuff. It's like when Yamaha's designing this, they're going, what kind of patches do people want out of an analog synthesizer? And it's like that's what they came up with. And most of them are like very thin sounds. Like they're thin and they're not very robust.
Wait, no, I mean, like the harpsichord presets from you is like, what a waste of buttons. Like, I could have like 2 presets that were like, and they sound similar. They're just so thin.
Right.
But they're there. I don't know how many people.
They're there. I mean, maybe they're good for like layering on top of another preset because you can layer them. And then, if you use, one of the intervals, I don't know. But anyway, yeah,
they would also, yeah. Forgive me for interrupting. I know I just a train of thought. I think one thing that's super cute about the presets is that in a way they speak to the time of music as well. There's like 4 funk buttons and there's no other thing. Those strings get 4 as well. But on that, it's like, okay,
yeah,
this must have been a time where the funk button was.
The funk button was important, I guess. Yeah. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's so many ways to use this instrument. And at the time when it came out, none of that music was created yet. So the designers are trying to figure out like, what's the market? What kind of presets do they want?
Here's another form of music, like a bean grinder.
Awesome. Yeah. The other thing too is unlike a lot of synths, I feel like the CS80 has a very strong character. It's hard to get away from it sounding like a CS80. You know what I mean? And the pocket, the variance of those tones feel sometimes restrictive versus a lot of other synths. But as you were mentioning, like with a piano, that's almost like its strength because then you start getting really into the nuance of what you're doing with it, considering it's such an expressive instrument.
Oh my God, man. Yeah. Yeah, I think like the expression and movement is like the two things that come to mind with like, and obviously like I feel a lot of the soul is also in the pulse width modulation.
Yeah.
Like that's really when it gets that sort of AC kind of classic Vangelis CS80 sound.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I love having the sine wave after the filter.
Oh yeah,
because even just playing the sine wave and just turning the filter off is such a beautiful sound in itself. So
I took in Soundpaint I took with all these filter models like we call CAF from capture analog filter with caffeination.
Yeah.
We took that feature from the CS80 to be able to have sine waves and shoot them in. We just call it warmth. It's in principle the same thing. It just works. Like sine waves are just eternally rewarding, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, and I mean, there's not a lot of harmonics in sound waves, so in sine waves. So I guess it makes sense to put it after the filter, you know. But
oh yeah, I think it's a fatness tool, and it helps like add a little bit of like a pinch of a salt, like butter in the sound.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything you didn't like about CS80?
Oh man,
because you know everyone taught it's like a mythical thing. It's like sometimes you don't meet your heroes, which I don't think is the case. I think meeting your hero here is great. But is there anything that you didn't like about it?
The keybed is phenomenal. I mean, if you ask me how keybeds should be made in the future, and with the aftertouch is kind of, you have to press harder when it feels right.
Yeah,
and like it requires some more strength. But for me, like that's the feel I want, like very dialed in. The ring mod for me, I didn't quite get in the beginning because like either it just sounds like a robot or it's kind of like, but if you use it just gently to create a little bit variance in the sound, it can be super sweet. But that one I had a little bit of a hard time with. But now I'm like, I think you could take discrete things like, well, that's kind of like the chorus and the tremolo for me is like, I don't know. But they have a vibe to them in the right context. And I feel with the unit, it's a lot about, I mean, you could take a sawtooth and it's like, okay, how pretty is this oscillator in its own right? But like, once you get the idea of all the components, like the sine waves as well, a little bit of ring mod, a little tiny tad of sub oscillation, the way that all the components speak to each other, it becomes the soul of the unit. So I think there are things that I'm more into in the sense there are things I don't understand well enough.
Yeah, I do.
Ring mod being one of them is like, okay, like I have to learn to use you.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like the ring mod, you can very quickly just go into a like sound effects world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where it sounds like you're making robot sounds, like you said. And the ring mod on the CS80, which I haven't really experienced this as much on the 60 or 50, but it feels like it drops the gain of the entire instrument a little bit. So usually when I turn the ring mod up, I will either just turn the volume up or turn up the VCAs a little bit to help compensate for that. But yeah, just using just a little bit of ring mod is really nice on it. And yeah, the chorus to me on it like makes it sound pretty lo-fi, and it cuts a lot of the frequencies out of its bandwidth.
Yeah, I mean, if I was like, what could be interesting, like imagine like in an extravagant world where we had infinite resources, like I would take the chorus from the Juno 60 or the 106 and replace it with that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like it could be interesting if one could like jerry like the best of all units.
Yeah.
One thing I fucking loved about it was like the Unison modes that I don't know if it was added, like, because I just keep thinking about the Jupiter 8 because it's such a classic. It's like Daft Punk with one button. Like, it becomes just so power leady.
Right. Yeah. I honestly, I rarely ever use the Unison on it because it's just so big. It's so, like, yeah, it's almost like, wow, like, okay, that's a lot of stuff. But it's the Unison mode on this one is interesting because it's not like a mono Unison. You can still play a chord. It just divides the voices. So if you play one key, it's all 8 voice cards, but if you play 2 keys, it divides it into 4 voice cards per note, and then 3 keys is two cards per note. 4 cards per note because there's 6. Sorry, you start. It just divides it down every time you press a key. But yeah, there's a couple of other interesting mods that the Yamaha custom shop would do, but you rarely see any of them with the Unison like that. Kind of a just cool little Easter egg on it, I guess.
I think it was very cool. Like it's a very different sound, and it's one that even if I sampled each of the voice cards in round robin fashion and all that stuff, and try to make a unison. I think the way the unison the way the unit mixes the unison is just has a vibe to it. You can see, okay, this is the sound I can only get this way.
Right.
So I recorded. Everything's recorded super. I mean, I think it's over 600 independent recordings.
Wow, that's intense. Yeah, I mean, this one's actually in pretty nice shape too. I don't think this one was played too much. It got moved around a lot because the case is all beat up, but most of them are because they're just so heavy and it's so easy to just destroy the Tolex on them because of the weight.
How did you find this baby?
Oh gosh, this one I actually found on OfferUp, just the marketplace, and I found it in an antique mall. And I knew it was an antique mall because someone put it up for sale, and it said CS80. It was a great price. It was a very good price. And I messaged the guy. He wasn't getting back to me, so I was looking at the pictures, and I was looking around, and the picture was like, this looks like an antique mall. And so then I knew the general area, it was in Buena Park. So then I was looking at the floor of the antique mall, and I started Googling antique malls in Buena Park and found one that had the same flooring. So then before the guy even messaged me, I just drove there. I just drove to the antique mall. And then I went to the bank and got cash, and I was just waiting out front of this antique mall. And he messaged me. He's like, yeah, I'm getting a lot of interest in the CS80. I'm not sure why I'm getting so much interest. And I was like, hey, well, I'm already here. He's like, what do you mean you're already here? How'd you know where I was? He's like, that's kind of creepy. But yeah, so it was just the flooring of the antique shop that led me to it. Kind of random little story, but
that's crazy. I mean, I think it was waiting for you.
It must have been. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you wait, it's like a fine line between overstepping your boundaries with trying to buy something like this and like being respectful of the listing and everything. But the fact that I could tell it was an antique mall, and I figured other people will be there, and they were closing it down, and I think that's why they were trying to get everything out of there so quickly, because they were just shutting the whole antique mall down, and who knows how long that thing was sitting in there.
With original chrome stand as well.
Well, that stand I actually got from 5G.
Oh, okay.
In Tokyo. Yeah, I bought it off of 5G on Yahoo.
They just happen to have a CS80 stand.
Yeah, the 5G, they always are just selling random little parts, and their prices are always like really reasonable. Because I think I paid maybe a couple $100 for that stand.
Okay,
and it came with the bag, and it came with the stand in the bag. And you know what though? Wait, no, this one actually did come with the stand. Sorry, I had two CS80s for a while, and this stand came in. This is the stand that I bought off of Tokyo, but then the other stand I sold off the other CS80 because it wasn't as nice as this were.
Do they sound different?
Oh yeah. My other synth I bought in Brazil. The other CS80 I got from Brazil. And that one, someone recapped it at some point. And the sound to me, I don't know if it was I don't know what they did to it, but it sounded a lot more, the resonance on it was a lot more nasally and not as full as this one. And you could tell that that one just had a lot more just pseudo text in there trying to find a way around it. And this one, that's what I really liked about this one is before I bought this one, I wouldn't be surprised if it was never it was ever opened, because everything in there was so original. Like every single chip, every single capacitor, nothing was ever touched in it. So
I think you're probably super lucky in that regard. I mean, what are the odds of finding a unit in this day and age in that condition?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably pretty tough. You're going to only find them in storage units or places where they've just been collecting dust and storage.
Right.
Which, I mean, yeah, those are the best ones to find for sure. And not just of the CS80, of any synth. The less hands in it, the better. To me, it's more than just the sound on an instrument like this. So,
yeah, I agree. Now, I mean, from the ribbon to the polyphonic aftertouch to the pedals, even the convenience of the layout, like you can so play it and touch things. Like everything is within reach. No sub menus. Like it goes back to Dave's thing as well in terms of having everything accessible right on the main board. I think it's that
you don't need a manual.
No, you don't.
You don't need a manual. You can walk up to it and just look at it long enough and you'll figure it out.
I mean, yeah.
And that's, to me, like, especially when you have a ton of instruments, that's one of the most valuable things to me with an instrument is you can walk up to it. You don't really need a manual to like menu diet or figure out what's going on. You could just look at it long enough and eventually get it to do what you want.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, this has been great. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that it made it through the rigorous sampling and the fires. It's all the fires. A lot went into getting it to what sounds like a great product. And thank you, my samples. Yeah, I think it sounds amazing. I can't wait to like actually get to try it once.
Don't hear, man. I mean, I've been like, even because I've gotten to edit every day as I'm sampling it because I'm such childishly excited about it. Like, and it is I'm in deep respect of the unit. I'm also really grateful for you because I realize these are treasured units, and the fact you are willing to bring it by and let me sample, I really appreciate it.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. It was a great time. Great experience.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.